Did you know that in a small village, long ago, a simple wedding became the stage for something truly extraordinary? Picture this. The sun hangs low over the hills of Galilee. It's the 1st century, a time when Rome rules the land. The air is warm and dry, and dust rises from the dirt paths as people walk. The village is Cana, a quiet place tucked away in northern Israel. It's not a big city like Jerusalem, just homes made of stone, with olive trees swaying in the breeze and fields stretching out under a clear blue sky. Weddings back then were huge celebrations, often lasting for days. Family and friends would gather from all around. They'd eat, they'd drink, and they would celebrate the new couple. Joy filled the air, laughter echoed through the streets, and the sound of simple instruments played softly in the background. The tables would groan under plates of bread, fruit, and meat, and wine flowed freely, a symbol of abundance and good times. But on this particular day, something went wrong. The wine ran out, the party wasn't over, yet the jars stood empty. The guests started to notice. Whispers spread through the crowd. You could feel the host's shame growing. In that culture, running out of wine was a major social disaster. It suggested poor planning and could tarnish the family's reputation for years. Now, let's introduce a young man named Jesus. He was there as a guest, along with his mother Mary and a few of his close friends. At this point, Jesus is about 30 years old. To the world, he's a carpenter from the nearby town of Nazareth. He hasn't yet begun his public ministry or shown his true power. But deep inside, he carries a secret purpose, a mission from God. Mary knows this. She senses that there's something incredibly special about her son. As the servants hurry around, their faces etched with worry, Mary pulls Jesus aside. She tells him about the wine situation. Jesus pauses, and at first he says his time has not yet come. But Mary trusts him completely. She turns to the anxious servants and says, "Do whatever he tells you." This is where the real mystery begins. Nearby, there were 6 large stone jars. These jars were used for ceremonial washing, a custom for cleaning hands and feet before a meal. And these jars were huge, each one capable of holding 20 to 30 gallons of water. Jesus looks at them and speaks quietly to the servants. "Fill the jars with water," he says. They obey without question. They haul fresh water from the well, pouring it into the stone jars until every single one is filled to the brim. Now, the moment of wonder arrives. Jesus tells them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the feast." A servant dips a cup into one of the jars and carries it over to the man in charge. The master of the feast takes a sip. His eyes widen in surprise. This isn't water, it's wine. And not just any wine, it's the best wine he has ever tasted. Rich, red, and full of flavor, far better than what they had been serving at the start of the celebration. Confused, he calls the bridegroom over. He jokes with him, saying that most hosts serve the good wine first, and then, after the guests have had a few drinks, they bring out the cheaper stuff. "But you," he says, "you've saved the best for last." The bridegroom just smiles, completely puzzled. He has no idea where this incredible wine came from. The only ones who know the truth are the servants, Mary, and Jesus' close friends. Jesus remains calm. He doesn't boast or draw attention to himself. This was his very first sign, his first miracle. And nobody actually saw the change happen. One moment it was water, the next it was wine. How it completely defies everything we know about the natural world. Water doesn't just turn into wine on its own, but with Jesus, the impossible becomes real. Think about the location again. Cana was far from the centers of power, from the temples and the kings. It was an ordinary place, full of everyday people, farmers, workers, families. There were no crowds of important folks. Yet, this is where Jesus chose to begin his ministry. Why here? Why now? It just adds to the mystery. He chose a humble wedding to reveal his glory, not in a grand palace with thunder and lightning, but with quiet power in a simple moment of need. The timing is also key. This event happens very early in Jesus' work. He had only just started gathering his first followers, John, Peter, and the others. When they saw this, their faith was ignited. They began to believe, and they wondered, what else can this man do? This miracle was a signpost, pointing to much bigger things to come. So why is this event so important? On one level, it shows Jesus' compassion for people. A wedding without wine would have led to deep embarrassment, and he stepped in to save the day. But it means so much more. In ancient stories, wine often symbolizes joy and new life. And Jesus brings the very best kind, hinting at his core message. He came to change things, to turn the ordinary into something amazing. On an even deeper level, this miracle foreshadows his entire path. Water, used for purification, becomes wine, used for celebration. It's a beautiful picture of how he would transform lives, turning emptiness into fullness and sadness into joy. And later, at his last meal with his disciples, wine would come to represent his own blood, a sacrifice made for many. But here, in Cana, it's just the beginning, a powerful glimpse of divine power wrapped up in everyday life. Imagine the scene as the sun finally sets, bathing the hills in a golden light. The guests raise their cups again, their laughter returning, even louder than before. The party goes on, but now with a secret spot. The servants whisper among themselves in disbelief. They saw the water go in and they drew the wine out. Their hearts are racing with awe. Jesus watches quietly from the side, a look of peace on his face. His friends start to look at him differently now. They're beginning to sense that he is much more than just a teacher, more than just a man from Nazareth. Something holy is stirring. A great mystery is beginning to unfold. As night falls and the stars appear over Cana, the village quiets down. But the memory of that day lingers. This wedding would not be forgotten. It marked the very start of the wonders that were to come: healings, profound teachings, and even raising the dead. Everything flows from this one quiet act of power and grace. Ponder those stone jars for a moment. Cold, heavy, and empty. Filled by human hands. And then transformed by a simple word from Jesus. What if those jars represent us? Sometimes we feel empty, like we're in need of something more. Jesus comes and fills us to the top, and not just with enough to get by, but with the very best. The air in Cana that day held a secreta fundamental shift in the world. God was walking among people, showing his mercy in small, tangible ways, building towards something greater. Years later, the story would be written down by John, one of the disciples who was actually there. He called it a sign, a pointer to Jesus' true nature as the Son of God, the bringer of light and life. Feel that sense of wonder. In a simple village, at a joyful feast, the divine touched the earth. There was no fanfare, no grand announcement, just pure, unadulterated grace. And in that quiet transformation, hope was born anew. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more awesome videos.